Hello, I'm Debbie Bell Hosking for FinextraTV here in our virtual studio, delivering you part of our Predict 2025 USA series. And I'm joined by Renata Caine of the Green Dot Corporation. We're going to be chatting about the growth, the benefits, and the risks of embedded finance. Renata, a big welcome to our virtual studio.
Thank you, Debbie. It's a pleasure to meet you. I've been in payments since 2006 and joined Green Dot 8 months ago, and I'm excited to be here to talk about some of the recent research that we've done in embedded finance.
That is great. And also, I know you've got a lot of experience in the industry, and particularly now with your research with embedded finance, it is growing in demand. People are looking more and more for solutions in one place, a holistic approach, so to speak. But based on your finance and the viewpoint that you have, what does this mean for the future of fintech?
Sure. And I'm going to start with grounding us in some of the research. Over the next 3 years, 82% of business leaders said that they plan to increase their investments in embedded finance. 24% said they're planning a significant increase. And maybe just as important, 98% of those decision makers viewed embedded finance and banking as a service as key drivers of growth for their companies. So what does this really mean? I think fintechs have had a really tough run in the last year, and it hasn't been easy. Ultimately, I think that they're here to stay, and I think that's because those who are building best practices and navigating the changing regulatory environment and continue to evolve with building programs that have the ability to adapt and change for the long term, those are the ones that are going to find success. And ultimately, consumers and businesses, we reap the benefit of what fintechs are able to bring to market. And I don't believe it's anyone's best interest to squander that innovation that comes from fintechs. So I think, again, that fintechs that can adapt, that show discipline and process and really take responsibility for consumer and customer funds, those fintechs are going to emerge as leaders, and they're going to be here to stay.
And that's interesting when you talk about having to adapt. And it's not just adapting to changing scenarios and technology, but of course, regulation and compliance is high up there in terms of concerns. So how would you say, and again, probably backed up by your research, how would you say that financial technology can assist with this regulation and compliance?
Yeah, so I'll go back to research, like you said. The top concerns of those surveyed all believed that regulatory risk and failure to meet compliance was one of the top concerns for them. They also cited security and data breaches and disruption for end users as being top concerns. But one of the top concerns was meeting compliance requirements. Maybe even more focused on your question, there was a statistic that 58% of respondents believed increasing regulation will benefit the industry. That's a pretty significant number. So it's like we've all been talking about the fact that there has been this increase in regulation. And now 58% are saying that even more regulation can benefit the industry. And I think that's really, it's not a surprise, but it's because of the turbulent times that we're in. I think even non-sophisticated consumers have heard about the troubles in the fintech space. So there are growing concerns that money is kept safe. I do think that oftentimes innovation is seen as at odds with regulation and compliance. Like you can't have one and not the other, or you can't have both, is what I mean to say. But personally, I think it's the opposite. Innovation should lead us to a place where we in fintech can scale in ways that we wouldn't without technology. If you think about, I'm trying to think of an example, maybe transaction monitoring. We could never ingest all that data and come up with real-time decisions if it wasn't for technology. Maybe settlement is another good example. Tech should lead the way here so that there's never a question about balances or who holds the balances or where money is. Innovation should make us smarter, and we should be leveraging it and making programs more secure and transparent and compliant.
And you're talking about tech being the enabler. But let's look at time. There are faster integration periods now. Do you see that as a benefit or a risk or a bit of both?
So I'll stay consistent in answering first with some of the data that we found. 50% of respondents said that they prioritized compatibility and ensuring services align with their business model or their customer needs. I'll go to that compatibility first. As a provider of fintech infrastructure and tools, I translate compatibility to having a platform that is easily integrated. The second part of that answer is about the services that you provide. Like, are you able to fulfill the needs of the partners and where they believe their programs need to go? But all of this, we live in a society where speed to market or instant gratification, if you will, is important. And it's no different here. Our partners today, our future partners, they all have expectations that bringing value to their end consumers via financial tools, in this case, shouldn't be a large lift for them, shouldn't be a long timeline. I think that now going to the risk part, there's certainly hurdles that each player in the ecosystem has to navigate. And a lot of that has to do with the regulatory changes and expectations. But other than that, decreasing development timelines and increasing the breadth of services offered, I think that's still the goal here. We're seeing trends towards this already with cloud-based solutions and the need for comprehensive APIs. And actually, the survey also told us, which I wholeheartedly agree with, AI will be a big driver of innovation in embedded finance in the future. Off the top of my head, I think about customer service, automation, transaction monitoring, fraud scoring, even marketing practices and how you communicate with your customers. All of this can benefit from AI. So I suspect investments in this will continue in the next several years.
Thank you, Renata. And absolutely, when you say investments in the next several years, really, the next thing to say is, well, watch the space, embedded finance, AI, technology, what the future holds.
Yeah, I think it's all of them. And I think that we will be better if we are able to leverage all of those pieces and adapt and be really good at adapting to the changing regulatory and compliance market.
And there's that word from you again, Renata, adapt. So on that note, may I say thank you so much for joining us here in our virtual studio.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.